Today on the official Marvel podcast, we delve deep into Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again Episode 8 with the cast and crew, including the stars of the series, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio.
That's so cool. What a cool job we have. I know. It's unbelievable.
I know, and we're so good at it.
Plus, we hear from Daredevil Born Again costume designer Emily Gunshor on how she created the Daredevil suit.
That was a really amazing process. It was about an 18-week lead time from first fitting to being on camera.
And to round things out, we'll get into the comic book history of the criminal mastermind, The Hood. I'm Quinn Lamar.
I'm Ray Lowe.
And this is the official Marvel podcast.
We are in the end game now, Quinn, and episode 8 of Daredevil Born Again may have given us some of the most iconic moments in the entire MCU, and we have to talk about them.
Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Hit that spoiler warning.
Okay, now that you've been warned, we've been warned, the spoiler alarm has sounded, let's get into episode 8. I mean, we have to start with that insane Bullseye escape sequence.
Oh my God. That was maybe the grossest thing I have ever seen.
I mean, dislodging your own tooth and using it as a weapon is pretty gnarly, right? But you gotta admit, it really is clever. I mean, you have nothing else in the room. So yeah, use your tooth, you know? Well, here's Daredevil Born Again executive producer Dario Scardapane expanding on this moment.
That's a very famous move in the comic. And I'm like, we're going to do this. Can we? And everybody was all in, you know? So I have favorites of the episodes that I've worked on or written. And episode 8 of this season is one of my all-time favorites. I'm super, super proud of that one because there are things in it that actually end up making massive amounts of sense. And again, I feel sometimes that there's ways of doing this safe, and then there's ways of, all right, let's swing for the fences. That was 3 or 4 days of shooting. The entire cast is there. You've got so much going on. It was so hard to pull off, but ultimately you knew that you got it. You know, you're having that moment of like, oh my, it worked.
This scene also shined because of the love directors and executive producers Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson have for the character of Bullseye.
We were such fans of that character and we were so emotionally attached to him that we became in some ways maybe unhealthily protective over his storylines and things he would do.
Yeah, everyone at Marvel knows, like, for whatever reason, we're like the Bullseye guys. In the opening scene of that episode, Bullseye is led down a corridor and he's put into Gen Pop, which is certain to kill him, right? And the lights turn blue. That idea was something where the lighting team had gotten there early, as they always do, and they were just having a great time. They turned their lights into party mode and they go, hey guys, watch this. And it was just party mode. And at a certain point, it all went blue. And we just thought, well, what if we just shot one take that's like that? And what that means is that it is something where we're diving into Bullseye's shredding psyche. And we could actually start using this as a theme. It's like visual, it's highly graphic. And so anyways, we started playing with that idea that day by then shooting later on the scene where he kills the doctor and the guard and had the light turn blue. And everybody on set when we cut goes, ooh, and we knew we'd hit something really special there.
Justin and Aaron also played a key role in fleshing out the black and white ball alongside Dario Scardapane. Here's Dario expanding on how the ball came to fruition.
So there's actually a couple things. One was when I walked into the writer's room and Sana was in there and I was like, ballroom dancing. And you could basically see it hit like a lead balloon. Like everybody was just like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I'm like, I want to do the reveal of this major plot point. Vanessa Hadfoggy killed. Done well. They're dancing during a gala. And like, nobody's with me on this until I talk to Justin and Aaron, who are like, and that's the fun thing of working with those guys. they had it in 3 seconds. They were like, oh, hell yeah, and here. And then as we started doing the thing that we do and kind of geeking out, people got it. There's so much that went into that, and it actually carries forward. So we knew it was going to be a black and white ball. We know that there's these 2 color palettes that we're constantly playing with, 3 with a little sly thing about bullseye, but red light, white light, what's in red, what's in white was always a big part of the theme. So we knew we wanted to do a black and white ball for a lot of different reasons, just how it would look. And then there was like, and I don't remember where it came from, and I really don't know if I could take credit for it, but somebody was like, Vanessa should be in red. And it's like, of course she should. And then that built its own storyline.
And you won't believe how that stunning red dress came together. Here's Daredevil born-again costume designer Emily Gunshor.
Vanessa's red dress at the end in the final 2 episodes was a huge feat. You know, we found out about this ball like 3 weeks before we were shooting it, and it was 250 people and all of our cast in black tie, and Vanessa in a fabulous red iconic dress that we pretty much made. We like took apart a couple dresses and pieced them together to come up with the perfect Frankenstein. We didn't have time to start from scratch. So I'm really proud of how that turned out. I think that it was a lot of effort on our part, and we did it. So that was cool. Thankfully, I have an amazing team, and everybody, we kind of divide and conquer. So we had 250 background, and then we had like 25 principal cast, another 15 stunt people. So principals and stunts are shopped for by individual person, and then the background are shopped for in bulk. So we basically found a company out in New Jersey that had very cheap wholesale tuxedos. So we just ordered hundreds of them, you know, in a size run. So it's like that, check that off the list. And then for the women, it's a little bit more difficult. We set a price point, and it's just a supermarket sweep of the internet and New York City for black tie dresses that pass, that are under, you know, $250. And we get as many as we can and then start pre-fitting and kind of fill in from there of what's missing. I see every single person's photo. I don't get to meet all those people, but, you know, my team pre-fits them all. And at the end of the day, we look at photos and options and see who needs a better earring or a necklace. And, you know, all those little details is, to me, that's the fun part.
And rounding out the black and white ball scene are the actors. Here's Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio discussing the moment where Matt Murdock takes a bullet for Wilson Fisk.
I had a lot of fun that night.
You really had a lot of fun.
I did, yeah. Do you remember how hard that was?
I feel like we were in that
we were there for 3 days, yeah.
For days.
Yeah. But that particular scene of you taking the bullet from me and choreographing that, oh man, that was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I said to the directors, like before we shot it, I think that was the only way to react to it. It was like he'd just say, well, why do I even care? It was like, I was about to, give him praise for saving my life. And then why do I even care? And I just kind of let him fall. Yeah.
And I said to Vincent on the day, are you going to help me onto the floor? No. No. Oh, okay. Right. Let's bring in a pad, please. And also we had the whole sequence where you are talking to me and I can hear you. Yeah. So we had to have earpieces so I could actually hear you.
Yeah.
That's so cool. What a cool job we have. I know. It's unbelievable.
I know. And we're so good at it. It was so fun.
He's a very good dancer. I'm not as light on my feet. I had to have a few lessons.
I could honestly listen to Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio talk about their time on set forever. I mean, they're best buds, not on screen, but definitely off screen. They sounded like they were having so much fun.
The most fun. And while the duo was tasked with bringing their respective characters to life, they had a little help when it came to looking the part.
And that's where costuming comes into play. And to help shed light on everything that went into building the Daredevil Born Again wardrobe, we thought it'd be fun to hear more from the show's costume designer, Emily Gunshor.
So when we first started out, we were about 2.5 months out of shooting, and we had a couple scripts and more outlines. Scripts were still being solidified. So at that point, it's hard to really like dive into the daily minutia of a script. But the Viz Dev team through Marvel had already begun concept art for the Daredevil supersuit. And that was a really cool process, which I've never had the opportunity to do, which is I usually have my own illustrator and staff here, and we're coming up with ideas and pitching them.
Once the team landed on a design, Emily and her team were responsible for not only bringing the suit to life, but also making sure that it fit Daredevil actor Charlie Cox.
And so that was a really amazing process. It takes time. So I would say we started working on Charlie's Daredevil. It was about an 18-week lead time from the first fitting to being on camera. And within that time, there were 6 fittings, starting with shape, looking at colors, looking at texture, looking where trim goes, how many muscles, what pads need to be added, can he move, to a camera test of just an arm to make sure the fabric didn't strobe, that the color red was approved. We had a couple different versions of the red to select ours, and then camera testing the whole suit, and then changing the helmet multiple times. You know, the illustration had it drawn with texture, and that was something that I think was a cool add because it gives it a little bit more depth on camera and visibility. But then how that texture played and finding the right shading in it was lots of steps and really a fun process. So the main objective for our suit was to make it a little bit sleeker, a little bit trimmer, more agile. They wanted to keep the silhouette of the jumper where it looks like almost like a vest platelet, but to be sleeker, to fit his body, to contour, to give him a waist more, to have a little bit more mobility. So that was the first note. And then the second objective was to make it a brighter red. Not stepping on the toes of Deadpool, but getting back to the red from the comic book, which, you know, then there was a lot of debate about where to put the Ds and if we should put the Ds. And ultimately, you know, it was decided that to start, we were going to keep it clean and simple and really contour to his body. And give him that shape. The mask stayed exactly the same as far as the shape and the fit of the horns, but the colors, the texture was added. Ours is the first one with a texture that matches the suit. So just to kind of make it go from a 10-year ago supersuit to a modern day, like a little bit more mature Daredevil.
While finding the right aesthetic is pretty important, Daredevil Born Again is also an aggressively action-packed adventure.
So we knew he was going to need to be able to move. And when Charlie was in the fitting room, you know, having him stretch his arms and lunge and try is important. And then his stunt double was sent to get scanned, and we discussed with him about his movements and making sure that he could move. You know, we did the chest plate. We ended up having to remake out of a softer material so that he could somersault, because somersaulting is hard when you're wearing a structured thing.
That all said, creating the new Daredevil suit came with its fair share of challenges.
I mean, definitely the mask was a situation because, you know, the way that the mask goes on, kind of the front goes on and the back clips in. It makes this, as Charlie calls it, the most rewarding sound when it like clips together, because it just feels like you've been snapped in, you're ready for takeoff. But when we started, Charlie was like, my complaint is that sometimes when I turn my head, I feel like the mask doesn't really turn with me. And already the eye holes are very small and the visibility is very difficult. We have different versions of the mask with the red lenses, which is like the hero look, clear lenses, because if you're on a dark set and you're trying to see out the red lenses, it's impossible to see anything. So the clear lenses make a little bit more visibility. And then we have another one where the whole eyelid comes out and it makes the hole a little bit bigger. And so we rely often on our VFX friends. I would say 100% of the time, the stunt guy is only with the full circle. He doesn't even wear the clear lenses just because it's dangerous. And he, you know, puts a clear frame in, maybe 10%. And Charlie pretty much always wears the clear frame. Very rarely for like a close-up hero shot, we'll put the red frames in, but he usually operates in the clear frames on set. So we rely on them. But so we were trying to adjust the helmet and figure out a way to like stabilize it to his head. So we put this like piece in that like Velcroed it on tight. And he was like, yeah, this is good. And then it held it on so tight that it was giving him a headache and it was like annoying to put on. We took it off and then we put Velcro pieces in there that like Velcroed it to his temples. And we ultimately ended up going back to the original method because we kept trying things and they presented a different problem. It was scratchy on his face, or it stuck too much, or it got stuck and it was off center. So, it's all of these things that you kind of spin in circles, and sometimes just the first way is the best. We had a little bit of an issue with the batons. There's like a cage for the batons to flip in, and, that's all made of rubber. Nothing can be hard because they'll get hurt. So the batons would often at the beginning fly out as they were running. They would just like slide off his leg and they would be gone. So we needed to make like a little rig grip in there. But other than that, we did it. Every day that there would be a big stunt, it would be another 2 days for somebody from our team repairing the suit afterwards, just because they're meant to look pretty, but they're not meant to withstand 12 hours or 14 hours of intense fighting.
And that's just covering one half of Matt Murdock's life. There was still an entire other half of Matt's wardrobe that Emily still had to build.
So Matt, this is, 10 years from his previous existence. We wanted to set the tone that he was a very established lawyer, much more mature than he was before. And he's killing it. His law firm's meant to be in Williamsburg. He supposedly lives nearby there. So his tone was elevated, chic, handsome lawyer. And, he pretty much wears suiting the whole time. We started off on an off-the-rack suit and very quickly started custom making his suiting just because he was working out so much and his arms were getting so ripped that his traps here, nothing fit right. So the tailoring was much better if we just made it ourselves. So sharp suits that are all leaning into the blue tones. So he almost always was wearing a navy blue suit. There was a little bit of window planes, a little bit of plaid checks, a little variations. Never a pinstripe in his suit, just because I always wanted to delineate the difference between Fisk and Matt in very subtle ways. When you're in a suit, so there's only so many things you can do with a man in a suit and a shirt and tie. So to kind of separate them, Matt always has either a solid or a very thin striped shirt, whereas Fisk has a solid or a wider, bolder striped shirt. Suiting, Matt is always in a blue tone and Fisk is pretty much always in a gray tone. So it's like the warmth versus the cool of their characters.
And despite not having a super suit of his own, there's still so much more to Wilson Fisk's costumes, specifically how they intentionally evolved throughout the series.
So when we first started, he is meant to be the mayor for New York, the mayor for the people, very grounded, very opposite of how we've ever seen Fisk, almost weak in a way, like humble and feeble. And the first time that we see him in the show, he has come across as weak. He's really skinny. He's very narrow. Vincent on his own, his body changed completely throughout the process of starting the show. And then after the strike, he lost even more weight. So we had body padding or body enhancement built to him by the end. By now, at this current time, we had 3 levels of body enhancement. And even our top third was not as big as he was in Echo. But I think the fans are going to be a bit shocked when they see how small, how conservative, how weak he looks to start the show. And the plan was to start him off as this mayor, super political, super almost approachable and nice. And he's trying to fit into this box. He wore only rep ties. He wore classic conservative notch, 2-button, notch lapelled suits, grays, plain shirts, really boring and conservative and traditional and very much the opposite of how we've ever seen him before. And then by episode 4 or 5, we started his arch of, adding in a vest to his suit, adding in a patterned tie rather than a rep tie, adding in a little touch of navy, a little touch of yellow or gold, if you will, like rather than just the classic conservative colors. And then by the end, we're meeting not full Kingpin, but Mayor Kingpin, which in kind of my hope was that he's almost a man who can walk freely around the city and not be as feared as he once was. So the reference for him in his white suit for this was more of like a Tom Wolfe character and less of Kingpin from the Marvel world.
You can see Emily Gunshor's work in action in Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
While we've been in full Daredevil mode since the premiere of Daredevil Born Again, we're also hyped for the upcoming series, Marvel Television's Ironheart, starring Dominique Thorne as Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, and Anthony Ramos as Parker Robbins, aka The Hood.
Yes, and while we're still a few months away from its June 24th premiere, we thought it'd be fun to delve into the comics to learn a bit more about the Hood, who has a very unique connection with Daredevil, just not in the way you're probably thinking.
Right, because for any person witnessing a real-life superhero battle right before their eyes, it would be sure to have an impact. Many might even walk away inspired to be a hero themselves someday. Not Parker Robbins, though. As a teen, he watched New York's fearless defender Daredevil take on the villainous Electro and was like, man, that Electro guy is dope. I want to be like him someday.
I'm not sure if he took the right lesson away from that fight, but it's true. I mean, Parker Robbins, aka The Hood, had supervillain aspirations from way back before he even started his criminal career as a low-level thief.
Robbins isn't a totally evil guy in the beginning. He initially becomes a criminal to pay for his sick mother's medical treatments and support his pregnant girlfriend, Sarah, soon to become his wife and mother to their daughter, Brienne.
But one fateful night, he discovers that the people he's trying to rob are in the middle of a freaky occult ritual. And before he even knows what's happening, Robbins finds himself attacked by a demon in a long, flowing red hooded cloak.
Luckily, this demon isn't bulletproof, so bang, bang, Robbins takes him down.
And since you never leave a heist empty-handed, obviously, he takes the demon's boots and sweet red cloak. I mean, why not? It is a cool-looking cloak, and who cares if it's got a little demon blood on it? I'm sure that comes out in the wash.
You can't even see it. That's just fashion, darling. Robbins soon discovers that the boots give him the ability to walk on air. Talk about boots the house down. And the cloak can make him invisible. So he starts wearing it on heists to hide his face, as well as his 2 golden pistols, which are now firing magic bullets. Robbins is now magically escaping arrests left and right, which leads the media to start calling him the Hood. The cloak does have a downside, though.
Yeah, it's possessed.
Which for some people would be a big downside, but we make sacrifices for fashion.
Yes.
So for Parker Robbins, the fact that the cloak takes control every now and then, which makes him rain little hellfire on his enemies, is a small price to pay to become the scariest crime boss in New York.
And that's exactly what he becomes. The Hood puts together his own all-supervillain gang and calls this gang Hood's Gang.
Hot take, he could have put a little bit more effort on that name.
You don't say. Okay,
I'm just saying.
But what's in a name? I mean, Hood's Gang rakes in millions on their crime sprees. That is until Doctor Strange, everybody's favorite Ring at the Temple sorcerer, gets on the case. Strange uses magical illusions to make Hood's Gang think they're facing off against an entire army of superheroes. And as the villains all scatter around in panic, most of them get apprehended by the government law enforcement agency, S.H.I.E.L.D.
Robbins himself manages to escape, though, and the demonic voice inside his cloak instructs him on how to get revenge. With the demon in charge, the Hood brutally attacks Doctor Strange. The only way Strange survives is by using dark magic to save himself, an offense which gets him stripped of the title Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, so definitely a win for Robbins, but he's not completely happy about it. He's starting to worry that the demon might be getting a bit too much control.
You know who else is not happy though? Sarah, Parker's wife. Can you blame her? She was never really thrilled about being married to a criminal to begin with, but a demonically possessed criminal? That's a big ask. She leaves him and takes their daughter Brienne away.
So, it's around this time that Robbins learns that his hood is actually controlled by the dread Dormammu, flame-headed lord of the dark dimension. In fact, Dormammu had orchestrated Robbins' evolution into the hood as a scheme to usurp the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme from Doctor Strange.
Dormammu has already succeeded in getting the title and its accompanying power upgrade, pulled from Strange. So the high-headed evil sorcerer next sends the hood to take out any potential wizards who can inherit the position.
Alas, the hood is unable to stop Jericho Drum, aka Dr. Voodoo, from winning the role of Sorcerer Supreme. Dr. Voodoo then uses his newly supercharged powers to destroy the hood's hood and magically cleanse Robbins of Dormammu's influence. A normal human once more, Parker Robbins is finally sent to prison for his crimes.
But as we said, supervillainy has been a lifelong dream for this guy, and he's not giving up on it. He just needs to find a new source of power. And what's more powerful than the Infinity Gems?
That's right, Robbins breaks out of jail and goes on a global hunt to track down the 6 Infinity Gems: power, mind, soul, time, space, and reality, which, when combined, form the Infinity Gauntlet, the same weapon that the mad tyrant Thanos once used to kill off half of all of life in the universe.
Astonishingly, he almost succeeds. He manages to get his hands on half of the gems, and that alone makes him strong enough to beat the Red Hulk to a pulp. He fights the entire Avengers team to a standstill, but in the end, it's a little brain work and trickery on Iron Man's part that gets the gems back into the hands of the good guys. Parker Robbins is defeated once again.
But the man still won't stay down, because now that he's got his cloak back, and if you're saying, wait, how is the cloak back? Didn't Dr. Voodoo destroy it? Yes, he did. But this is a demon-possessed magical garment we're talking about. These things always have a way of coming back. So as I was saying, now that he's got his cloak back, the Hood starts up a new supervillain collective that he dubs the Illuminati.
You may be familiar with a group of heroes called the Illuminati. A lineup that includes Iron Man, Black Panther, Mr. Fantastic, and others. Yeah, it's not those guys. Parker's Illuminati is all bad guys. The lineup includes the super strong brawler Titania and the Absorbent Man, who can take on the properties of any substance he touches, and a few others.
And the Illuminati have no less a goal than total world domination. But Robbins is just so mad at the heroes that he crosses a line even some of his fellow villains won't cross. He's gonna murder the innocent families of the heroes. But Titania, who Robbins personally recruited to the Illuminati, won't stand for that. She treats Robbins to a beatdown and tears his cloak to shreds.
But remember, this is a demon-possessed magical garment we're talking about. So yeah, the cloak comes back. But now the Hood sets slightly more realistic goals for himself and attempts to reclaim his position as New York's top crime lord. This time it's Archer extraordinaire Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, who delivers the cruelest blow.
Hawkeye steals a bunch of money from the Hood, then lets the Hood catch him with a big old canvas bag in his hand. But when the Hood goes to open the bag and get his dough back, it's not a bag at all.
The bag literally is a demon, and one that likes to eat magical stuff, and the bag demon just devours the Hood's cloak, leaving him powerless once again.
Powerless and consumed by rage and fooled by a bag demon, he wants his cloak back. But the demon bag has ended up in the hands of a rival crime lord. Robbins figures if anyone can get it back, it's the world's greatest thief, Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. He finds Black Cat visiting her comatose friend, Peter Parker, at the hospital.
Yeah, that's Peter Parker, as in the guy who's secretly Spider-Man. But Robbins doesn't know that. And don't worry about why Pete's in the coma. That's a whole different story.
In this story, Robbins holds Peter Parker at gunpoint and threatens to kill him if Black Cat doesn't bring his cloak back by morning. At sunrise, Black Cat returns triumphant and tosses the cloak to Robbins.
Only it's not a cloak at all.
No, it's the demon bag again. And this time, it swallows Parker Robbins whole.
Believe it or not, this isn't the end of the Hood. Down in hell, he makes a deal with the archdemon Mephisto.
I think making deals with demons is just kind of his thing. Like, obliterate the rest of his superpowers. He's just a demon deal maker.
He lives for it. Robbins agreed to become a host for the demon Zarathos, aka the Spirit of Vengeance, aka the Ghost Rider, and is returned to Earth with a whole new power set. We're talking super strength, endurance, the ability to magically charge up objects with hellfire, and of course, the usual Ghost Rider signature look of occasionally becoming a fiery skeleton. And Robbins doesn't want to waste this second chance at life.
His head may turn into a flaming skull from time to time, but that doesn't mean he can't reconcile with his estranged wife and daughter.
It also doesn't mean he can't go back to his old dream of being a top crime boss. So he does both. He reunites with Sarah and Brienne and goes on a murder spree to kill all the other crime bosses. But even with the powers of the Ghost Rider, he can't take them all down. So he enlists a group of vampires to help him out.
These vampires, though, Quinn, not good allies. Robbins comes home one day to find that Sarah and Brienne have both been bitten and turned into nocturnal bloodsuckers.
Child. And to make things worse, Mephisto orders him as Ghost Rider to kill his vampire wife and child. That's when Robbins finally does the right thing. He refuses to comply, so Mephisto strips him of his power and condemns him back to hell.
The ultimate sacrifice, but at least his wife and daughter are all, oh, wait, no, they're still vampires, so unhappy ending, I guess.
Or not the ending at all. Remember, these things have a way of coming back. What happens when a group of teenagers learn that their parents are secretly supervillains? Well, 22 years ago today, 6 unsuspecting teens found out the hard way, and Runaways #1. Created by Brian K. Vaughan and artist Adrian Alfona, Runaways focuses on a group of teens who run away after they witness their parents sacrifice a young woman during a secret, mysterious ritual. Together, they discover that their parents are a part of the Pride, a criminal organization that has a tight hold over organized crime in Los Angeles. Determined to stop the Pride, the group slowly begins to realize that they may have inherited something else besides generational trauma from their parents. There's Nico Minoru, who learns she's a powerful witch and wields the mystical staff of one. Carolina Dean, who discovers she's actually an alien who can manipulate light energy and fly. There's a resident genius, Alex Wilder, who quickly becomes the team's leader. Gertrude Yorks, who uncovers that she has a telepathic connection to a dinosaur named Old Lace. Chase Stein unlocks the powers of his father's inventions, X-ray goggles and fisticuffs. And last but not least, Molly Hayes, who may be the youngest and smallest member of the group, but has the mutant ability that gives her superhuman strength. Together as the Runaways, they work to put a stop to the Pride. And even after they defeated them, the team continues the good fight, taking on anyone trying to fill the void left behind by the Pride.
Next week on the official Marvel podcast, we wrap our coverage of Daredevil Born Again as we answer your season finale questions with the cast and crew, including stars Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio.
Things get pretty hairy. Frustrations build up. The need for what our goals are as the characters build up. The pressure starts to affect our relationship in a major way.
That's all for today, though. Make sure to leave a comment, rating, or review wherever you're listening to us right now.
This episode was hosted by Quinn Lamar and myself, Raylo.
Our producers are Jasmine Estrada and Anita Flores. Additional writing by Christopher Healy.
Thanks to our Senior Manager of Audio Production and Development, Brad Barton, and Production Manager, Emily Godfrey.
Mixed by Justin Harris.
Theme music by Ida Akbal.
Executive producers are Larissa Rosen and Jesse Berger.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.